welcome back to another episode of Behind the Look. We are here with Krystal. Welcome. How are you going today?
I'm good.
Yeah, you're good. Are you nervous or like, what are the
I'm
feels?
not the world's best speaker, so maybe.
We'll just take it as it comes, eh? So Krystal, tell us, for those who don't know you, what is it that you do?
My name is Krystal, and I do pretty much social media OnlyFans.
Yep.
Yeah.
And yeah, slow. And how has that journey been for you?
Fun.
Yeah?
I really enjoy it, to be honest. I think it makes you really get to know yourself. Also kind of makes you sort of have a stronger mind when it comes to looking at yourself and comparing yourself to others, always being on social media, which was a bit of a harder one, but yeah, now I quite enjoy it.
So at the start it was a bit like not as fun as it is now.
No, I think I was super nervous at the start. I started with doing modelling.
Yeah.
And then it went into like nude modelling and stuff. And I think at the start, very like frigid, very like nervous, wasn't quite sure what I was doing. Quite a bit of crying, I think, as well, because you sort of are on social media 24/7 looking at other people.
Yeah.
Constantly wondering why I don't look that way or whatnot. But now it's like, if I have a photo shoot, walking around naked is just like such a normal thing. Like, it's so fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter. Like, you just feel so comfortable in your skin. So I think it's actually quite nice.
That's awesome. Because I feel like there is a bit of a taboo with, you know, OnlyFans or just, you know, even just like work that involves the body, I feel.
100%.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think people just enjoy judging others.
Judging. And I think also over-sexualizing. Like,
Yeah, I mean, being naked doesn't have to be sexy.
yeah.
There's multiple times I've been naked that is not sexy. So I don't think it needs to be sexy, but it just really is like how people want to judge others, or like how they've been brought up, or how they interpret what it is that we do. I have a partner and he has no problem with what I do. Obviously his view on it is the same as mine. It's a job, we work. At the start I did nude modelling for free.
Yeah.
So it really is just sort of capitalising off myself. But yeah, I don't know. I guess some people do definitely look at it in the wrong way. I personally think it's quite empowering and quite a sexy thing that you can use your body to make money from it.
Yeah. And like, well, speaking of how it's helped you to stop comparing, like what were you comparing yourself to? Like,
everyone and everything. I think I went through a massive stage where I was like, I must go to the gym because I have to have this and my body must look like that. But I'm built differently to everyone else.
Yeah.
I can't have what everyone else has. So once you sort of accept the fact that you have what you've got and just work with it, you realise how everyone is beautiful in their own way.
Yeah.
I'm skinny. I don't really have much shape. But I can still be attractive to people skinny with not much shape. Like, not everyone finds the same thing attractive.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that I needed to understand. I guess also having a partner while I'm in the industry is quite nice, because he generally will always tell me that I'm very attractive and whatnot, so it makes you feel good. But yeah, I mean, at the start,
I'm just going to do the upper lip.
I think I wanted like multiple different things. I was like, maybe I should, you know, get cheek fillers or have my lips bigger, or I said I want to get a BBL, and my partner was like, oh my god, stop. I was like, okay. And like over time, to be honest, I've actually had a lot of my lip filler actually dissolved and taken out a lot of things, because you're constantly staring at yourself being like, why did I change so much? So yeah, I guess I went backwards, but I enjoyed it all.
Yeah. Well, that's great that you've had a positive experience with that so far. Do you think that there are cons to it as well?
If you get into it for the wrong reason, I guess. If you get into it not really understanding what it is you're signing up to.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that might be young and jump into it. I'm 30.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I only started 2 years ago, so it's not like I was young. I've had proper 9-to-5 jobs where I've worked in those sorts of industries and decided I didn't want to do it anymore. So I definitely gave that lifestyle a go. It wasn't like I was 18 and just jumped straight into the sex industry. I have worked around the sex industry a lot of my life though, so to me it wasn't anything different. But I would say, yeah, if you're 18 and you're young and you just want to make money, probably have a little bit of a think about it, because it is stuff that you can't take back. But for myself, that doesn't affect me in any way, and I have quite a positive look on it. I also, you know, when I first started, did ask my mum's permission to sell my images, and she said yes. I didn't just do it behind back and expect people to find out and have a go at me. I mean, my dad and sisters know about it. Can't say 100% that they're like, yeah, do it, but they don't look down on me for it, which is also a positive in my life for it. And like I said, I got a partner after. And he also does help in regards to taking videos and photos and stuff, so I have a very positive surrounding me. So I think maybe before you do jump into it, make sure you have that kind of mindset and that backing, because otherwise it would be quite a daunting sort of career to jump into.
Well, yeah, it could be very almost like isolating if you don't have that support circle.
That, and you also have to like take what people say with a grain of salt, because you'll get a lot of comments, and if you take that on or whatnot, can get quite depressed from it, or be really affected from it, whereas I really don't care when it comes to people's comments. So
that is so good. Like, how do you get to that stage of not caring?
Well, I mean, I had a really bad past, I would say, in relationships wise. So very abusive past, and I'm also BPD, which is borderline personality disorder. And so trust me, I definitely had a lot of care and nervousness of being around people, or what they said about me, or what was happening. Everything affected me very, very, very heavily. And then I was in a very bad, abusive, controlling sort of relationship, of which I came out of with like not one thought to myself. Like, I didn't even have a personality. And so it was a lot of work. A lot of different types of therapy. And then it sort of became who I am now, to the point where I honestly do not care. But it did take a long time
to get to that stage.
Definitely a long time. A lot of work on myself to be able to get there. And now I think I could go into any industry and not mind what I'm doing.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
No worries. I think I'm pretty open about it in general on a lot of my social medias.
I was gonna just ask if you naturally feel okay to be vulnerable.
I do now. I think after a lot of therapy, and my last relationship that was very, very bad, I'm very open about it now, because I just think sometimes people need to hear about other people's stories, especially when they do have quite a larger platform on social media.
Agreed.
And I get a lot of, like, you know, people talk to me in inboxes and stuff about their feelings, or them being down, or whether they have BPD or bipolar, or whether they've been in abusive relationships. And I just think it's, one, quite therapeutic for me to talk back to them, but also helps them if they don't want to or aren't getting that kind of help. And
also that help is sort of quite expensive anyways nowadays.
It's extremely expensive, unfortunately.
Well, going to your mental health, how has it been living with BPD? Like, when did you get diagnosed?
I was diagnosed at 14. But I did not pay attention to my diagnosis until I was about 2 years ago. So when I ended up splitting with my ex-partner, due to, like, just, he was very controlling and abusive, is when I finally sort of, I guess, had a massive mental breakdown and sort of had to try and figure out who I was. And that's when I started to look into borderline personality. And through different therapies, I've done general, like, you know, counselling, therapists. I've done what I call brain training, which is sort of with someone that is not an actual therapist, but they have qualifications in something else. Which is like different techniques in retraining your brain to sort of step out of what it's used to. I've also done, you know, online sort of meditations and manifestations and
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff. But then I did a thing called which was hypnotherapy. And the man that I did hypnotherapy with, I think I've told a million different people to go to because I just fell in love with it. And he probably helped me the most.
Wow.
And he sort of made me realise that BPD wasn't like a disease, which you sort of think it is because it's so heavy, having so many different sort of personalities and manic highs and really bad lows, and when you're low you think the world's absolutely going to end, and then when you're having a high you think you're the best thing in the whole entire world. So it is a lot to manage, and don't get me wrong, I still have lows. Like I could have a day where I'll just cry and still not understand why I'm crying, but I don't think it's the end of the world anymore. Like I'm pretty okay with it, and I sort of enjoy my manic highs now because I think a lot of my the impulses that I sort of had to move overseas and travel and all that, I reckon had a lot to do with BPD.
Yeah.
And I just didn't realise. So yeah, I actually don't mind having it. Some days, don't get me wrong, I'll probably cry and say, aren't I normal? But yeah, it's been an interesting journey, but it's also pretty cool to read about it and look it up and sort of relate to a lot more things to understand why I am the way I am.
Yeah, and I think in a way we're all sort of trying to get to know ourselves a little bit more, and we're always trying to either do it, like if we have that awareness, we will try and dive into it and see, you know, why are we this way, and is it because of our beliefs or is it because of our upbringing, etc.
100%. You know what, a lot of people always blame everything on upbringing, but there's a lot more to
Yeah.
upbringing than just your family life. But yeah, I think BPD is quite interesting. It's interesting that a million people could tell me what I am.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But I think my biggest mistake was pretending I didn't have it for so many years, because once you realise you have it, you can actually start to work on yourself and then live with it rather than act like you didn't. And for years I just sort of got angry at anyone that told me that I did.
Yeah.
But I mean, I also have ADHD, so they're very similar, so it's just a very wild ride, but it's not the worst one.
What do you find is like the difference between the two?
BPD is more to do with, I can get very depressed.
Yeah.
Depression is something that I now can live with. And I go on manic rampages where I might cut all my hair off, bleach it blonde, or, you know, shave off my eyebrows, or I'm covered in tattoos. I presume a lot of them were manic choices. My ADHD, I think, is more like an OCD thing that I have, which I notice I like vacuum the house multiple times a day, like just walking into certain rooms, and hangers have to be hung a certain way, or my concentration is absolutely shocking when it comes to school or studies, or even just someone generally having a conversation with me.
Right.
So yeah, I think BPD controls a lot of my emotions, whereas ADHD controls a lot of what I am doing.
And how have you managed with the two, like in your day-to-day living?
I'm still trying.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no like I'm fixed sort of situation. I listen to a lot of podcasts on personality disorders, heaps, even ones that aren't my personality disorder, to see what I can relate to. I listen to a lot about ADHD and people just with ADHD and the way they sort of control themselves. At the moment I'm actually microdosing magic mushrooms.
I saw that, because I'm into that.
Yeah, so my younger sister sort of goes up and down with emotions as well, and we both decided, you know, there's only so much therapy and whatnot that you can do until you want to try something new. So I've never had a personal bad experience on like a hallucinative. So we decided to look into magic mushrooms, and we've just started. I'm on day 4.
Nice.
And yeah, I have been a lot more active and actually on time to things, which is quite interesting. And I've actually opened my computer and decided to sort of give like the studies, which I've had for about 3 months, an actual go, my online course. So
what is that course?
Just looking into e-commerce, something that keeps my brain going, because obviously OnlyFans, there is quite a bit of free time.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to benefit off my free time, but I've had the course for 3 months, paid for it and not looked at it. So I finally opened it. But yeah, I've just started microdosing. Gonna do that for 2 months and see how that goes. So fingers crossed it turns out really well.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I have maybe 7 different reminders on my phone.
Right.
That go off at certain times. Like today, you're gonna do your social media at this time, and then you're gonna do OnlyFans at this time. You're gonna do your course at this time. Now you're gonna like manifest. Now you're gonna be mindful of the world, and then it's like, okay, now you're gonna go to bed.
Yeah.
So they all go off on my phone. Sort of just try and keep me on track to what I'm doing, which I think is kind of helping. Then, like I said, hypnotherapy is a massive one.
Do you go still?
Yeah.
Okay.
So hypnotherapy isn't like your counsellor, you go once a week. My hypnotherapist sort of says come back when you've decided you need it again.
Is it sort of like if you were into like tarot readings, like doing that whenever you feel like you need it, sort of?
Yeah, you go in and just see him when you want. So you just pay and go in and see him. So he pretty much has a book, writes down what you're working on, and you work on something each session. So say my 2 first sessions were abandonment, which is a massive one for borderline personality. That's sort of how you end up slipping into that personality disorder. Abandonment would have been in relationships. I have a perfect family, so it was definitely more that.
Yeah, they're iconic. They're a great fan.
They are great. So it was more, the people I surrounded myself with rather than my family. And sort of when he worked on abandonment. Now, when I say hypnotherapy, it's not like click your fingers, you're out, you don't remember it. You're very there for it. He worked on that for 2 sessions. I went 2 times in the month, and then I sort of left it for a month and realized that those concerns sort of left me, but other ones came to me. So like anger or manic episodes or insecurities about looks and stuff like that. And so then I'd call them up and be like, okay, I want to book in a month later about this situation. I'll go in, we'll talk about that. And then maybe a month later, I'll be like, okay, well, that one's sort of out of the way. Now I've noticed this.
Right.
And so we sort of just work on just particular things as time goes by. So it's cool because you don't feel like he's trying to take your money. You're not going in weekly. He sort of just says, come when you want.
Yeah. I've always been interested in hypnotherapy, but I haven't been able to like find one. I guess I haven't also researched it enough.
Yeah, I mean, I gave it a go because I was having some pretty bad PTSD episodes with my recent partner.
Right.
And he sort of had to go through the ringer in regards to what had happened to me in my
Previously,
past.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it got pretty bad to the point where we were like, oh, we need to do something called this won't work.
Yeah.
And so I jumped into like every therapy you could think of.
Yep.
And hypnotherapy, yeah, I ended up looking up
Yeah.
a PTSD, trauma, BPD hypnotherapist, and his name is Tony Cook, and I love him.
That's great that you found like something that works for you.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy, and he doesn't really believe in your normal therapist, and he deals with a lot when it comes to BPD people in general. So yeah, I definitely would recommend him to anyone that does have it.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's just constant reading.
Yeah, just your own research, hey, on your own time.
Yeah, just watching people and professionals sort of talk about it, what you can and can't relate to, what they can and can't recommend. I don't think you can ever just all of a sudden be okay one day.
Yeah.
I'm not huge on medication.
Yeah.
So with ADHD, I did take it as a child, no longer. It's more of a just having to control it myself. And BPD, you can't be medicated. So
Right.
it is what it is.
Well, what about like for those who have just been diagnosed or they're not really understanding how to help themselves? What would you say to them?
Honestly, I would say go on podcasts. Just jump onto Spotify, type in BPD and start listening to podcasts, because there's a lot of people out there that sort of just tell you the differences between sort of personality disorders, and it makes you kind of feel a bit more sane.
Like less alone?
Yeah, that like it is such a common thing. BPD is actually such a common thing, and it's also not for life. Some people actually can move on because it is a trauma sort of bond, like trauma response that happened to you when you were younger. So it's not like, unfortunately, like bipolar, which is something to do with the actual brain. It is something that you sort of grow into due to trauma. So I would say just go onto podcasts. That was probably my biggest insight. I listen to them all the time, just in regards to different things about myself and people relating to them. And then, yeah, I mean, I would just go from there. Also, just like structure, like go to the gym, do stuff like that, because I find BPD can make you sit in a room and consume you.
Yeah.
Whereas going out and being active as much as you don't want to, like I hate the gym. But I still go. And even when I'm at the gym, I listen to this podcast. So it kind of just like gives me that hour or so a day to just listen to it.
Yeah.
And you're really focused on it. But yeah, I would say definitely start there. And then sort of reach out to things like hypnotherapy or brain training, or like there are people out there that sort of will tutor you through like healthy journeys. I wouldn't generally say go to a counsellor. They generally don't really know what they're talking about when it comes to BPD. It's a hard thing to relate to unless you've actually studied it yourself. And I found counselling sort of made me quite insecure.
In what way?
Just the way they sort of speak to you, because they sort of look at you like you're a bit different. They don't really understand.
Is it very just clinical?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like when someone says to you, how does this make you feel? You don't know, because you actually like have something called BPD, which gives you those emotions that you don't know how to control. So I think a lot of self-taught, self-learning when it comes to that sort of stuff is the things that really benefited me. Don't try to take medications. Maybe try microdosing, look into it first. But medications won't help. Yeah, I think it's just self-research at the start.
And what about like if someone is going into a new relationship, or even just like their relationships with friends and family, how would you like manage that? Because obviously if you do have the extreme highs and the extreme lows, can it have an impact on those relationships?
100%.
Yeah.
I think you need to be honest and sort of just tell them, I told my partner I have BPD.
Yeah. You know,
up to you if you want to research into it, have a look. But he's super understanding.
That's good.
When it comes to it. But I will get angry or cry. Like I think yesterday I tried to study and I got a bit overwhelmed not understanding the program, and I just started crying.
Yeah.
Like full on crying. He stopped drawing, looked back and said, are you upset? Are you crying? And he came over and sat with me. And then after I sort of said, thank you so much for that, like I apologise for this, and he's like, you don't need to. I think you just need to talk, like a lot. That person should look into what it's like to be with someone with BPD, as in like read up why we have these highs and lows, and the fact that it just can't be necessarily controlled, because it is quite an impacting thing on a relationship, but you need to be open to communicating. So like I had a lot of really bad dark episodes, and the next day he would sit me down and sort of talk to me about it, and then like what we can do to move forward or how we can fix it. So I guess that person that you're with really does need to be understanding. As for like family, I never realised my impact on them until the last few years in regards to, as a teenager, how shitty I was. I didn't really understand. I'm still hearing stuff that I'd done that I didn't even remember doing. So again, I think when it comes to family and that, I'm still learning. I couldn't tell you. I'm still trying to figure out how to sort of either fix the random things that I did when I was a teenager, and sort of apologise for a lot of them, and now work forward and sort of just express that it is BPD, and like sort of talk with my sisters and stuff in regards to when I have weird outbreaks and stuff. But they're pretty understanding. I think they grew up with me my whole life. It wasn't anything different to them. Yeah. So they just sort of was like, oh, Krystal's being
she's being
shit or something like that. Friends, like I also, like I'm very open about being BPD. I think the more you sort of say it to people, the more they will have an understanding that that's what you have. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm not trying to hide it in any way. Yeah. I don't also blame everything on it. I tell people like, I do have it, but that's like me, so I apologise for like my outbreaks, or my housemates, I think, see the best part of it, like my manic highs. They'll see me come out with extensions in, and the next day extensions out, and the next day extensions in, and then like cut my hair, dye my hair, go on a massive shopping spree, or then cry for 4 days.
Yeah.
And they're just super chill about it. Like, I don't think BPD really, like, actually harms anyone in any way. It just can be a lot to sort of take in. So in a relationship-wise, I can see where it can struggle, but with everyone else around, it really doesn't hurt them in any way. My friends are pretty okay with it.
Yeah.
They've dealt with it a lot, especially in breakups and stuff and just silly things that I've done.
Yeah.
But they always sort of just laugh about it with me. So I guess you just really need to surround yourself with the right people, and those people that sort of want to put you down for having it are probably just the wrong people to be around. Because you shouldn't feel bad for having a personality disorder.
Yeah.
Or any disorder, really.
It sounds like you had like a really great supportive circle. How did you find that? Like,
pure luck.
Yeah.
Pure luck. The peninsula's a nice place to live. Do you know what I mean? So once I think you find your clique, you sort of stay in it for a long time. That's what I found.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's just luck. I just found a good group of people that sort of put up with each other.
Because most of yours is from school, is it? Or not even?
No. My best mate that I live with is from high school.
Yeah.
But all of my other friends are from outside of school.
Yeah.
I met them when I was really young, but we've all stayed within sort of a tight-knit group, and we've sort of all somehow become quite familiar with each other's groups.
Yeah.
But I think that, again, could just be the peninsula. But yeah, I would honestly just say luck. Do you know what I mean? I find being BPD, again, we also are very loving people. We have a lot of love to give.
Right.
So I think we do a lot for people, which they might have to deal with the lows sometimes and the highs, but we do give out an overwhelming amount of attention to them that we do love. So do you do makeup anymore?
Not anymore, no. I stopped during lockdown. I stopped, and also it's just sort of like nerve-wracking when it's like that paid sort of stuff, like weddings and things like that. It's like your big day, and I don't want to ruin it. I think it's just self-doubt, hey. And then and then now I'm a support worker, and then
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, and I'm studying counselling, but I don't want to be that clinical one either.
Yeah.
So I did think of doing like almost like a coach, but not a coach, because I feel like everyone throws that word around. So like maybe mental health practitioner or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like doing this more, like just more the combo, and I think because I'm more passionate about it because it is like a project rather than a business.
Are you wanting to do more like within mental health sort of counselling? As in like with the community, like younger youths and stuff? Or?
Oh yeah, I was thinking if I'm doing counselling, I'll do high school, because my high school counsellor wasn't good at all. Like when I went through my traumatic experience, went to school the next day, and they didn't even forward me over to him and stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
So yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, counsellors, I mean, a couple of people I know have done counselling for years, and different counselling works for everyone, do you know what I mean? Yeah. But for someone like me, unfortunately, it just doesn't. Yeah. You know, I find that I will lie to a counsellor straight to them to get out.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And then I've accomplished absolutely nothing because I've just lied about everything to them to make them happy. And so for years, I did counselling for years. Yeah. And I just couldn't click with anyone or get it right, and I found that the reason I did hypnotherapy is because my eyes are shut. So it's sort of make a little bit more comfortable with myself, and it's not necessarily you sit there and talk about what happened today or what happens tomorrow. He sort of goes, all right, you know, tell me when I first started your 5 worst sort of traumatic events that you can't get rid of. And I had 5, and I remember there was like one where it was with a past partner where I woke up with a black eye, and there was just a comment made by him in the morning, and that could send me to tears for any time I thought about it. You know, at the moment, the fact that I'd sat there still stayed with him, was in that situation, how did I get this sort of situation. And we worked on that for like an hour. And then when I left, I felt a bit heavy, like, oh, I need to go to sleep. And then when I tried to think about it for the next like week, I just couldn't. I couldn't think about that situation. And to me, I was like, this actually works. So the way he works in his hypnotherapy is he works on taking the emotion out of the memory.
Yeah.
So he took away, you know, the sad and the hurt from that memory. So that memory then is just
a memory.
And it's one hard to remember because there's no emotion attached to it.
Yeah.
The way he explained things was like, the memories that you remember is because you either have happiness or, you know, you were scared or you were sad. Like that's attached to that memory, and that's why it's so clear in your head.
True.
So by detaching that emotion takes away that event. And yeah, it was just so interesting to me, and I was like, okay, this is my guy.
That is actually very fascinating. I like that.
Whereas I know a lot of mates that, you know, a lot of my mates still do counselling because it works for them, you know? And it's not like they have a traumatic event. Like I think everyone should do counselling just in general.
I do think so too, like regardless. You 100%. Don't have to have anything that's gone wrong or anything like that either.
No. I said my partner, I think he should do counselling just because he's had to deal with my traumatic events, and some were probably very shocking to him because he had never had to deal with something like that before.
Yeah.
So I think like everyone definitely should do it. But some people just can't sit in front of a person and talk.
Yeah. How do you support yourself during the manic lows?
I used to, unfortunately, self-medicate for a very long time.
Yeah.
For my very first abusive boyfriend, I turned to self-medicating. I think I was 17, 18. And then it just got really heavy for a long time. And then I could tell you how much I can't remember of years, which was a bit scary. And then it sort of just got worse. And I think that's how I ended up in some of the relationships and stuff that I did, because I was pretty blasé to the world. And then after the recent, like the last ex that wasn't fantastic, I stopped self-medicating. And now I find that if I have an anxiety attack or panic attack, I generally would turn the lights off and sit in a cold room.
Yeah.
That just for some reason slows down my heartbeat, and that used to be something I would do quite a lot. Now, like today, when it comes to those sort of like depression or like anxiety or panic attacks, I could be standing in a room full of people and you wouldn't know. I generally will tell myself that it's not the end. Like, it's not the worst thing. Like, tomorrow will be great.
Yeah.
Because it will.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, just because you're having a manic low, that low could go for 4 days, which I've had. You know, I generally will sit in my room and watch Disney with my dog. I think a support animal is the best. My dog definitely has had to put up with it for the last 9 years. But just got to keep reminding yourself that it's actually not the end. Like, it's not the worst thing that's going to happen to you. There are better days. I also write a lot to myself. I write down my sadness or my anger. I find sometimes if you write things down, you get it off your chest and you can feel a little bit better.
Yes.
Sometimes when I'm feeling really low, I'll reread over my low points.
Yep.
Just to remind myself that I've been there before and I've gotten better. But yeah, honestly, everyone's a bit different, but you just got to keep reminding yourself that like it gets better. Like, this is just a feeling, it's an emotion.
Yeah.
It's a hard one. And I also tell people, hey guys, I'm feeling shit today. Or hey guys, I actually have anxiety right now. I tell my partner all the time, I'm anxious.
Yeah.
I'm feeling depressed. I'm open when I feel depressed, I tell people.
Yeah.
I'll say, I'm depressed, and I acknowledge it to myself. Like, I'll say, I know I'm depressed.
Yeah.
And
that's
so I
big.
think
That's powerful, really. To be able to be so, I guess, vulnerable and like just courageous and brave enough to say that. Because I feel like I don't know about everyone else, but sometimes when I've been in those states, I just want to isolate because I can't be bothered like even sharing that. Like, so how did you get there? Or is that just like naturally came to you?
No, I think it was just so with the last partner that I had, because of the abuse and the bullshit that I went through, and then leaving that, and no one knew anything. You know, I had isolated myself so much. Also through the depression of that relationship, I hid everything. When I came out and wanted support, I realised like I just don't tell anyone anything.
Mm.
I self-medicated, I wasn't really there. And so that was really just like me having to pull myself out of that situation and realize that I wanted to do better for myself.
Yeah. Okay.
And so from that, I I just chose to work on myself. It's like a hard thing because it's hard to tell someone you just need to put the effort into yourself, but I think coming out of that relationship, it taught me a lot of what I never wanted again. And I wanted people to sort of be there and be able to talk to people about things, so I need to say it out loud. And so I did, and I started with my mum. She was easiest. Like she's been there through a lot of the bad times. Always answered the phone or had to deal with some scary stuff that she probably didn't want to. But I started with her. So you just got to find one person and start sort of there. And now if I'm depressed, I'll just tell everyone in the room.
No, that's so, like, that's very powerful, I think, because I think a lot of people feel like they are alone and then they choose not to say it because they feel scared.
And that's why I put things on my Instagram still. Do you know what I mean? So then those times where someone who doesn't know me at all feels that they can message me and say, hey, this is how I feel, and I will generally reply to everyone. But yeah, I just think once you are able to say it out loud, things get a little bit easier inside your head.
Do you think that saying it out loud is sort of like, in a way, just learning to accept it?
Yeah, and you're sort of telling yourself that you know, rather than hiding it. And it also then allows people to check in on you. Do you know, because you've told them. So it makes you feel a bit better that in 3 days' time you've said, I'm depressed, someone messages you saying, hey, how are you? And it's sort of that message that makes you feel a lot better. So I think, I mean, it's a hard thing to say, acknowledge it, but yeah, that's definitely what worked for me.
And what about, like, because you have shared with us about being in past relationships that were abusive, what would you say to people who are in that situation currently?
I don't think
there's anything
I can. Do you know what I mean? It's like such a weird...
Yeah.
Don't think I could say anything really, unfortunately, if you're in an abusive relationship, because I think everyone's experience is different. And I have been in 3.
Right.
Which 2 were physical and 1 was just completely mentally fucked me. And don't get me wrong, sorry, I don't know if I can swear, but I did.
You can. All good.
I mean, all of them are definitely mentally draining and will hurt you, and I think mental abuse is actually the hardest one to come back from. Compared, like, physically, I've been abused, yes, have got over it, because, I mean, you sort of repair and sort of get over that feeling, but mentally, I'm still working on it, which is sad to know that someone can actually take that much from you. All I could really say to them is, don't be quiet about it, because that's the hardest part. I was so quiet that in the very last day of one, like, I remember packing my stuff, calling my mum and sister and saying, get me out of there. I'd never seen the person since. Don't plan to ever bump into that person. Hope to the Lord that I never do. And that was such a big move, because I remember through that relationship, I think he was very narcissistic. I have BPD, and I will say people with BPD generally find it hard to detach themselves from any kind of trauma bond. So if you meet someone that is very abusive, it's like you think you love them, and it's just the craziest thing now for me to think back over the things that I did. I remember, like, I'd get hurt, or he'd cheat, or he'd do something that was really, really wrong. I would then beg him to stay with me. And it was so odd. Like, now that I think about it, it was so odd that I was like, I just didn't understand it. But then, like, if I went to leave, he would convince me not to, and it was just so odd. But I would definitely say, just speak to people.
And what about...
Or just admit the smallest little abusive things, because your friends will generally tell you that's not right. And eventually it'll get through.
Hopefully. And what about for those who are supporting the person? Like, supporting the individual who was in that type of relationship, what would you say to them? Like, how to best support that person?
Do you know what? I don't know if I can really give a lot of advice there because I didn't tell anyone.
Yeah.
So I think me now, if someone is giving off that sort of information to me that they were getting abused, I couldn't even tell you how I'd react. I think myself would probably go a bit crazy or not know how to deal with it. I honestly don't know. I know my sister and my mum sort of just listened to things and sort of just were ready for whenever I said now.
Yeah.
And they did drop everything and come for me, and then they all sort of just supported me in regards to not ever telling me, can't believe you stayed, or you have to leave them, or anything like that. They just sort of just waited. I think you just got to be kind with people like that so that they don't push you away. Because if you're really pushing onto them in regards to what's happening, I generally found that I pushed away a lot of people.
Right.
Because I didn't want them to know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I just don't have advice when it comes to it, because unfortunately I still re-look over the situations I was in and I just think, how?
That's true. Why didn't you want to, like, what was it that sort of stopped you from sharing it?
I think my situation, the last one, was just so strange. It was like, he had put so much love into me at the start, and then slowly built me down without me realizing. So a lot of it was like little small comments about my appearance or my weight or who I was and what I could do, and then it turned into sort of like, no one else, you're not good enough for anyone, and then prove yourself, and then you need to prove that you're good enough to be with me because no one will be with you. And over time, even if you don't have BPD, these things without realizing are like a brainwashing. And then you start to believe it. And every day these little comments you start to believe, and then it goes into the sort of physical abuse, and that's so numbed out because you're still trying to prove yourself to this person because you don't think you're good enough.
Yeah.
It's such a strange concept. And then while I'm trying to prove that I'm good enough to him because I think he's better than me, everything going behind closed doors, I didn't want anyone to judge him because I didn't want them to judge my relationship because I had to be with him.
Yeah.
So it was just really weird, and like anything that would happen I'd keep quiet because I was like, well, I don't want anyone to come in and tell me this is wrong because it's not, because he's better than I'll ever get.
Yeah.
And it's just an odd way that an abuser can sort of swing and make you
feel
theirs.
Yeah.
It's very controlling, you know. It got to the point where it was like how you dress, what you ate, whether you went to the gym or when you woke up, what time you go to bed, who you're out with, what you're allowed to do, who you're allowed to see. And you sort of don't realise, like now I look at it and I go, that was weird, because I've got such a big personality. But
and now that
definitely
you're out
happened.
of it and you can see it from afar.
Yeah, and like anyone that's in those situations, I suggest work on yourself heaps, because now I know what I don't want. And like me and my partner will talk about everything.
Yeah.
You know, something that won't make me comfortable or whatever, like we discuss it, and I'm very, very vocal now about everything and the way I feel. Which I feel like if you don't go and address it and work on it, then you could find yourself back in that situation, because I went through it 3 times. So I mean, I always kept everything a big secret. And then the last one was like, all right, we've got to get out of this.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that with
No
us.
worries.
I love that. And thank you for just being vulnerable and being yourself, and just, you know, because we want that, hey?
We do now.
I'll get you to close and I'll spray your face. Perfect. And I will hand you the mirror.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah?
That actually is, yeah, that's the colour I normally use under my eye. I love that. That's gorgeous.
Yay, I'm glad. Not too...
I look high, look how red my eyes are. I'm not,
But
but
okay, that's an aesthetic. That's a look we could go for.
I tried to go to Woolworths just before to get clear eyes, and I was like, my eyes look so red.
Maybe, yeah, let's just blame it on hay fever.
Yeah, and my eyes are always bloodshot. I literally have clear eyes on me 24/7. When I was coming here, I went to the shop and I was like, they don't have any. I was like, oh well, here we go.
Either way, you look good. I really like this.
It's
look
gorgeous.
on you. Awesome.
So I just have a question for
Yes.
you. What are you planning on getting from this podcast?
Right,
From
thank
this
you for
channel?
this question. I think my main goal isn't like profit or anything like that. If collaborations come in my way like that, then sure, I'll take it. But I think it isn't my priority. My priority is to just create conversations where people can feel comfortable and share their story. and also just helping others realize that there is more than what we see on socials, or there's more than what meets the eye, because there is. Like, we just got to know a whole new you. Well, not new, but new in our eyes, you know, because I didn't know you.
Yeah.
I didn't know like this, you know. So thank you so much for sharing that.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I just want to give that platform
Yeah.
for, I think, people to just...
I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, 100%, you go onto my Instagram and you're like, oh, look, a nude model.
Not,
you talk to me and you're like, not a nude model.
No, but like, not gonna lie, like, before I met you, I was like, oh my god, I'm intimidated. Like, I've been that way. Like, even like any hot girl, really. Like, when I meet them and stuff, I'm like, oh. But then you get to know the person, and like, there's a fucking real human behind their squares online. So yeah,
It's the resting bitch face.
resting sad face. So. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode with Krystal. I will link all of her information below, and I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.